Imagine waking up in a hospital bed, completely paralyzed and unable to speak, only to hear your own wife and stepson whispering right next to you, not praying for your recovery, but eagerly planning how to spend your millions once you die. They thought I was a vegetable. They thought I couldn't hear their twisted schemes to cancel my life-saving rehab and sell off my estate. But they were dead wrong. I heard every single word, and trapped inside my broken body, I realized I had to play dead to catch them in the act. What I uncovered, and how I fought back, changed my entire life. My name is Robert Harrison. I am 62 years old. Until 3 days before that moment, I believed I had the perfect American dream. I built residential neighborhoods across Colorado, not luxury skyscrapers in New York, but real communities in Denver where teachers, firefighters, and nurses could afford beautiful homes. For nearly 35 years, I worked from before sunrise until after dark. I wasn't born into money. My dad drove a local delivery truck, and my mom cleaned motel rooms out in Aurora. I earned everything one brick at a time, including my 3-story stone mansion overlooking a beautiful mountain lake. Then, 3 days ago, a pickup truck ran a red light. My SUV rolled twice before smashing into a concrete barrier. I suffered multiple fractures, internal bleeding, a traumatic brain injury, and a stroke during emergency surgery. When I finally woke up, my body was a prison. I couldn't speak, move, or even blink on command. That morning, my wife, Barbara, was holding my hand. Cancel his rehab. Save the money. She whispered to my 34-year-old stepson, Jason. Jason chuckled. I'll take his mansion. I've always wanted to remodel it anyway. We'll wait until everything is official. Barbara laughed softly. The garage alone is worth more than most people's houses. Jason replied. They didn't see the tear rolling down my face. They thought my mind was gone. But Dr. Miller had told Barbara my brain swelling was going down and that with months of aggressive therapy, I might recover. To me, that meant hope. To my greedy family, it was a threat. A minute after they left the room, my private nurse, Jessica, walked in. She was about 35, with a warm, compassionate demeanor. As she checked my IV, she paused. I know that look, she whispered, leaning in. I think you're awake. Can you understand me? I put every ounce of my willpower into blinking twice. Jessica gasped. They said you weren't responding. I blinked again. Tears filled her eyes. I'm not telling anyone until we know exactly what you want. I couldn't speak, but an old memory sparked in my mind. My younger sister, Amanda, was born profoundly deaf. Growing up, our parents couldn't afford special schools, so we all learned American Sign Language. I was only 10 at the time. I hadn't used ASL in decades, but muscle memory kicked in. With agonizing effort, I managed to twitch my index finger. Jessica leaned in. Breathless, she told me her own brother was deaf, and she knew a little ASL. Slowly, painfully, I formed the sign for one word, Times Lawyer. Jessica asked if I wanted my family to know I was awake. I blinked once for no. She promised to help me. That night, Barbara and Jason came back, drinking coffee and complaining about insurance costs. They had no idea the ground was already shifting beneath them. After they left, Jessica pulled out her phone and called my attorney, William Davis, who was listed as my emergency contact. At 8:15 the next morning, William walked into my room. He was an older guy in a Navy suit, my best friend for 28 years. We had built companies together, and he helped me draft every will since my first wife, Margaret, passed away from breast cancer 15 years ago. When William saw my eyes open, he nearly cried. With Jessica translating my clumsy ASL, It took 20 minutes to form one sentence times, "My wife wants me to die." William was stunned, but immediately went into problem-solving mode. He spread my estate documents over my hospital tray. I had built my empire before marrying Barbara. So a family trust owned the mansion, the businesses, and the land. Barbara only had access to a joint checking account pocket change compared to my total wealth. But William warned me that if Barbara gained medical conservatorship, she could take over everything. I needed ironclad proof. Around 10:30, Barbara strutted in with homemade blueberry muffins. Playing the grieving wife for William, Jason followed in sunglasses, asking about the legal stuff. William played dumb. That afternoon, Jessica brought me a tablet hooked up to my home security system. A motion alert popped up for my home office. Jason was removing documents. I slowly signed to Jessica Times. The fastest way to catch a thief is to let them think they are invisible. For the next week, only 3 people knew I was conscious: Jessica, William, and me. William brought in a private investigator, Laura Brooks. Laura uncovered that Barbara and Jason were moving incredibly fast. They were touring my mansion with a luxury realtor, ordering custom furniture, and meeting with shady financial advisors. A law firm hired by Barbara even submitted a request to transfer my corporate voting rights, claiming I was permanently incompetent. While they planned to rob me blind, I was secretly fighting back every night. After visiting hours, Jessica sneaked in a retired VA physical therapist named Marcus. The exercises were pure torture. But Marcus pushed me. "You built neighborhoods?" He'd say, "Now build this." Within 2 weeks, I could lift 3 fingers and manage a crooked smile. My time was coming. Then Laura brought the ultimate proof. She handed William a flash drive containing hidden camera footage from an upscale Denver steakhouse. On the screen, Barbara toasted with a glass of wine. I honestly thought he'd die that first night, she said. Jason laughed. The realtor asked what would happen if I recovered. "He won't," Barbara replied. "The doctor said rehabilitation takes months. We're making sure that never happens." Another recording from my home office showed Barbara saying, "The sooner he dies, the sooner we're free." Jason had even contacted a funeral home and was actively selling off Margaret's precious crystal collection online. They were planning to throw me into a cheap assisted living facility the second I was discharged. It was time to drop the hammer. William and I drafted a new will, leaving Barbara and Jason exactly $1 each. I moved massive funds into scholarships for nursing students and rehab grants for stroke victims. Then, William pulled out an invitation for the Harrison Foundation's annual charity gala, a massive event in downtown Denver with 400 guests. Barbara and Jason had already RSVP'd, planning to take over my foundation publicly. I signed 3 words to William Times: 1 more week. 7 days later, the ballroom of the Grand Downtown Hotel was packed with local politicians, business leaders, and friends. Barbara stood on the stage in a designer black gown, looking like a tragic widow. "I wish Robert could be here tonight," she crooned into the microphone. "His condition remains very serious." Then, the ballroom doors opened. The room fell dead silent. One careful step at a time, leaning heavily on my cane, I walked down the center aisle. Every click of my cane echoed like a gunshot. Barbara turned pale white. Jason looked like he was going to vomit. When I reached the stage, William handed me the microphone. My voice was raspy, but loud enough. I heard my wife cancel my rehab. I croaked. I heard my stepson claim my mansion. Jason yelled that I was crazy, but William signaled the audiovisual tech. The massive projector screen behind the stage lit up. First, the hospital footage with subtitles of their cruel whispers. Then, the steakhouse recording. Finally, the home office tape. Gasps echoed through the room. People were crying in shock. William held up folders of forged documents, illegal property listings, and bank transfers. Barbara dropped to her knees, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, claiming she was just scared. I shook my head. 2 plainclothes detectives walked right onto the stage and arrested them both for felony fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. As they were escorted out in handcuffs, Jason glared at me with pure hatred. But I just felt sad for them. The aftermath wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice and rebuilding. The legal battles dragged on. But both Barbara and Jason faced serious consequences. Jason lost his real estate license permanently. 3 weeks after returning to my office, I agreed to meet Barbara one last time. We met in a quiet counselor's office. She looked entirely broken. She handed me my gold wedding ring and apologized, admitting she let greed blind her. I told her I forgave her, not for her sake, but so I wouldn't have to carry the poison of hatred in my heart for the rest of my life. 6 months later, I sold the giant mansion with its 12 fireplaces. I bought a cozy 3-bedroom lake house 20 minutes away, with a wide porch for watching the sunrise. I started fishing again with William. Marcus came over on weekends to keep my physical therapy going. At the next foundation gala, I introduced a brand new scholarship for compassionate nursing care. I called Jessica up to the stage and handed her a plaque. It was named the Jessica Harper Compassionate Care Scholarship. She cried, and so did I. People ask if I regret exposing my family. I don't. The accident took my voice for a while, but it gave me the ability to see people for who they truly are. Never measure your wealth by the size of your bank account. Measure it by the people who stay by your side when they think you have absolutely nothing left to give. If this story touched your heart or encouraged you to choose integrity when times get tough, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your stories matter. 2. Subscribe and join me for more incredible stories about resilience, justice, and the human spirit. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, sometimes the quietest voice in the room carries the greatest truth.